is social enterprise a model to finance SDGs, food rescue operation, and Australian evidence. So basically, we are last few days, couple of days, we are talking about SDGs and challenges and all that. Even Satya also mentioned that how we do finance. So there are probably different ways government can give grant, international agencies provide some fund. I will talk about one of the mechanism, probably one of the mechanism where we can discuss, and that is social enterprise. So what is a social enterprise? So in United Nations Sustainable Development Goal is a combination of 17 goals, 169 targets, a collection of global agreed policy issues. Basically, these are different policy issues come together and make a United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The question is how to finance these policy agendas. That is the point. So one of the way to do is to form a social enterprise, and then probably we can we can target those policies, agendas, and try to bring some benefit to the society. So what is a social enterprise? Social enterprise, basically, we take a social issue, a problem, and try to bring a benefit within the business model, okay? In Australia, there are probably about 2,000 social enterprise, and it is accounted about 3% of GDP and employing 300,000 people, okay? And one of the good organization, the Social Trades, in their analysis in 2016, this data came out, okay? So food waste and food loss is a policy issue, one of the policy issue, okay? There is a different estimates globally. One is Food and Agricultural Organization of United Nations. They mentioned that it about 1/3 of global food production for human consumption never finds its way onto plates, and it lost and wasted. About 1.3 billion tons of edible food equivalent, okay? So in one way, we are telling that we have to fight hunger, we have to fight poverty, but at the end of the day, we are producing enough food to feed another big population, 2 billion population probably. In the next slide will be coming. We are simply wasting, okay? So we can think that the agricultural land we require to produce that 1.3 billion tons of edible food. Unnecessarily, we are using that, and we are killing the biodiversity. We are welcoming climate change in that process. So why the food waste and food loss is a policy issue, okay? So cutting food waste and food loss can feed billions of people. So 2 billions of people are hungry, and we are throwing 1.3 billion amount of foods, okay? If we say 1/4 of the current lost or wastage, we can feed about 870 million hungry people. And from economic point of view, and $1 trillion of economic cost, USD 700 billion environment cost, and USD 900 billion social cost, and about 680 billions in that loss. If you separate this total loss, in 680 billions are happening in the developed, industrialized country, and 310 billions US dollar is happening in developing countries. So this global issue directly linked with the SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. And when we talk about food waste and food loss, there is a two component. One is food loss, that is reduce food loss along the production and supply chain, including post-harvest, and food waste, that is basically it's happening at the consumer's end, okay? So it is happening at our fridge or our food storage area. So we are buying unnecessary food which we can't consume ever, and we are just like a hoarder collecting that food and keeping it, and after that the date is over or it is rotting, even if you keep it within the fridge, and we're just simply throwing it. And so it has an implication other than SDG 12, SDG 2, zero hunger, SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 13, climate change, and SDG 15, life on land. Because you think that amount of food we are harvesting from a land which we don't require it. We can have a forest over there, we can have lots of plants and animal over there. But we are destroying the biodiversity in one way for producing more and more food, which is simply wasting. So food
formula, it creates a topic sentence, explanation, evidence.
19% of all fertilizers, 18% cropland, and 21% of landfill volume. Okay, so that is the impact. So what is an Australian figure? In an Australian scenario, 20 billion lost to the economy through food loss, and about 2.84 billion Australian dollar is a loss to farmer, and food waste cost to household vary from $2,200 to $3,300, and 2.2 million of food is wasted from the commercial industrial sectors. Okay, so, and another thing is that Australia produces enough food to feed 60 million people every year, yet every month 650 people, of which 1/3 of children need food relief. Can you believe? In a country which is second best according to Human Development Index, so people who are in the countries which are at the top 5 or top 6 in the Human Development Index, or top 10, we think that those countries are with milk and honey. Yes, Australia is a milk and honey, very good society, but still in a country which is second highest in the Human Development Index, there are also around 650 people, probably more, requiring food, and they need food relief. Okay, so to tackle this issue, in 2017, the government of Australia adopted national food waste strategy. Okay, and in other jurisdictions, Canada, Netherlands, United States of America, and UK, Denmark also have similar sort of strategies. So how to tackle this problem? So one of the issue is to have a food rescue operation. Okay, so food rescue operation as a mean, I will say that, to tackle this issue. Okay, so number of most prominent global food rescue organizations are there. From one of the source of information is Food Tank. There is another body, Think Tank. It says that 59 organizations fighting food waste and food loss globally. In Australia, there are probably many, but most prominent are Food Bank, Oz Harvest, and Second Bite. They are all non-profit social enterprise. So, collective outcome of this food rescue operation in Australia. So, according to the government estimates, this is a big amount. I can see about 220 million tons of kgs of food wastage at a household level, and there's a big amount in the industrial. Okay, but how? So that is the food waste the government is thinking, but how much is food is rescued in that? Okay, so this is the amount by 3 organizations in 2018-19. So in 2017, that was an estimate how much food is wasted in Australia, and this is the 2018-19 most available data, that how much these 3 organizations collectively rescuing food. Okay, comparison. So if we see that, of course, of these 3 organizations, 52% of food rescue is done by Food Bank, followed by Second Bite and Oz Harvest. Yes, it's a great job, but if we compare this this food waste, amount of food waste and amount of food rescue, it is just a 1%. Okay, this whole green in the pie is the food waste. The rescue is happening just 1%. Okay, so that is the difference. Okay, contrast. Even they are doing a great job. So collective food rescue operation outcome in Australia. So from economic point of view, if you see, these are of course not a profit-making organization, not for profit. So in 2018-19, they made a profit. It's like, if you compare, it's like a commercial organization. You can say the return on investment. So total investment, how much they have done to make a surplus of their operation every year. So for example, food bank, they're making a 12% return. In 2019, food harvest make a small loss, but average of 2015 to 18, they made a 6% surplus. Because it's a non-profit organization, we call it surplus more. And average 2016-18, second bite making 18% surplus. So again, this is not a commercial organization, so we will not bother. But what's the benefit they're bringing to the society? So amount of food rescue they do, then they take it to their organization, then through that they distribute to different charity and schools and for other different social events through which they provide food to people who need as a meal. Okay, they prepare a meal, or they teach them how to prepare a meal, and also they give raw food as a. So in that way, if you convert the food rescue into meals, this big amount is coming. So, and again, in that case, 151 million meals they distributed in 2019. Out of that, obviously, food bank is the biggest, followed by second bite and Oz Harvest, with a collective investment of 15 million sort of amount. But what is the now? Why it is important, the food rescue? Because the amount of food rescue you are doing, that means you are stopping same amount of food going to the landfill. So once it is going to the landfill, it starts rotting. You know how much smell comes in a food if your food gets rotten in our home, and basically methane and carbon dioxide is coming out of that. Okay, and basically they're stopping amount of emission. They're basically saving every kilo or ton of food they're rescuing. Basically, they're saving carbon emission. Okay, so this is the amount of carbon emission, and if we put it in a small any thumb rule sort of thing, how much food waste make a food emissions, we can see a great figure, a big figure, and it is an equivalent of 32,000 years of one household electricity consumption. That can be equivalent. So why food waste or lost in Australia? Why it happens? Because it's quite a prosperous developed country. One of the reasons is the pressure to keep food retail shelf look. We are having a huge big retail where don't because they are so big to make it look good. Also,
18 के एंड में बना हुआ था.
Someone please switch off your. So what happened is that some of the retail chains, what they do, they're so big, even they don't have so much demand. They just to look good, they will display food over there, which is never sold. Okay, and also sometimes people, the companies, they think that if we give this food takeaway to others, then people will think that this brand is not selling. That's why so much of unsold food, so their brand image can hamper. And another reason is the cosmetic reason, because nowadays if you look at the advertisement of every big retail chain, you'll find it's looking so beautiful. All the foods are fresh, beautiful, and it's no little bit of spot or something in the food. It is just like a machine made. Okay, but they genetically engineered over the years and all that, we're making monocrop sort of thing. We are getting one varieties of food, and somehow we make it through a scientific process. We make it something very specialized and all that. It all looks same and all that. But in reality, if you go to any rural food market, which is not controlled by MNC. MNC companies or like that, there you find that there are different shapes and size of fruits and vegetables, because in nature, nature is not a machine. Okay, in nature, when you produce food, it doesn't look like a mechanized way. But in a modern big hypermarket, in a supermarket, when the food is coming, it looks very neat. And we have through advertisement and all that, we create an image that if it looks perfect, that means it's fresh. So the definition of freshness in our mind has changed. Okay, it's a false image is created by the supermarkets through advertisement. And many times what happens, the agriculture is at the mercy of these big retail chains. So they make a contract with these farmers that I need food, so I need so much amount of fresh fruits and vegetables, you have to give it to me, I'll give you some advance money and all that. Then but if they make a contract, they don't take the whole food of that. Based on the season's demand, they take it, procure it. And if they're not based on their own specification and tradition, they don't take it. So what they do, farmers has no other way. Most of the buyer, it is a monopoly supermarket market or a duopoly market where one or two big supermarkets, they are the only people, so they can't sell it. Such a loss. Okay, and they fail to, because they're throwing it, they fail to meet the market specification, which is a gimmick or which is a created specification. We don't know that is the specification. And why food charity is required in Australia? Because they cannot, many people mention that because they cannot pay electricity bill keep on getting high and high. Then also problem of working poor. Even if you are educated now, previously if you've done just graduation, probably good. Then if you had a little bit masters, you could have job. Now if you with a PhD or great qualification, sometimes we are unemployed, we don't get jobs. So there's even with a good education in Australia, people are not getting a good, decent job. In underemployment and unemployment is an issue, and cost of living. Okay, so that is an issue. So some government intervention is happening. So government of Australia has created a CRC, Fight Food Waste Cooperative Research Center. So they're looking at how to convert waste into more valuable products. So even their waste, that maybe there are some chemical components which we can extract and create some product, and how to stop wastage. That is one of the things, and how to stop the wastage in the supply chain, and how we can increase the more donation so that to the people who need. One of the reasons that donation is possible in Australia, because there is a law has been passed in every state, Good Samaritan law, where the public liability of this food donor has been some kind of limited. So they say that, okay, if you, with the best intention, if you donate this food by this organization, then if something happens with the food after eating, so they will not be liable. So there will be no public liability. So that is the reason it is possible, it is happening. Okay, now so how it happens in the whole supply chains. What happens is that these factories, then restaurants and farmers, from there they take this excess food by these three organizations. If suppose there was no intervention, then this all extra food could have been gone to landfill, and there's a waste of resource and all. Instead of that, because of their intervention, the food is coming to three organizations, and then redistributed this extra food to the welfare agencies, schools. Lots of schools have been giving breakfast to. Nitya was talking about the midday meals in India. We are thinking that we are a poor country, we need food over there. But in Australia also, it seems that many people don't have breakfast before going to school, and they're unattentive. So they put food in the schools, and in this way there is some breakfast in the schools. So individual families and all that are benefited. And as a result, you can see that these rescued food creating yield, and save hunger. Or many people also create employment. These organizations also quite big, reasonably big, and employing people. Even there is some volunteers. Uh, so that's it. Thank you for today. Any question and answer?
Thank you, Kuntal. Yes, so uh, yes, if anybody has questions, I would be able to take 2 questions at the moment, and the rest of the questions I would like to take up at the end of the sessions because the sessions was a bit longer. So, if anybody has question, please.
Um, I have a query to ask. You were telling about the food getting into the landfill and they get rotten. In India, we see a lot of people using their leftover foods to use as manure for agricultural facilities. Um, is that not a possibility in the kind of
See,
food which is
if you,
getting rotten?
the way the food is produced in agriculture happens in Australia and India is very different, and there's so much food is made, and the agriculture happens at a very industrial scale, and they don't take this food and throw it uh, in the agricultural, and basically they don't, because the labor cost is so high, so they always think what is the cheapest way to throw this food. Okay, that is the idea, because even if you want to take this to the different agricultural land and throw, you need people and cost and all that, so cost of doing that is too high. So the simple easiest way is that just collect somehow the food from the wherever is available and put it over in the nearest landfill and throw. That is the easiest way. So they think from the cost point of view, not from the benefit point of view. As a result, this sort of thing happens. And also many of these food with a package and cans within the can, it's not just like raw vegetables. Okay, define, when you're talking about food, there's different sorts of foods within the package, not within the package, and not, you can't throw it in the just in the farmland either also. So we just put it in the landfill and keep it for rot. That is the thing happen, and then leaching happen, and it going through the groundwater, and contamination is happening.
Kuntal, so there is
Dr.
another
Kuntal,
question.
can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Please.
This is Imran. Thank you so much for a very interesting presentation. It's a hot topic in Australia, I know. Just wondering that you talked about the distribution of food by food bank and second bite. So I was wondering that where this food comes from, which they distribute to schools, and perhaps you talk about some.
As I showed in this, just a second. Yeah, as I showed as a pictorial example. So different, even they're doing the same thing, but they have a niche market. For example, Oz Harvest mostly collect this food from the restaurants and all that. Okay, their sourcing are the restaurants and the supermarkets or the all that. Whereas food bank is much bigger organization. They take the food from the industries itself. Okay, so we get lots of canned food and all that, but little bit of production difficulties. Some of the examples they given are wrong labeling. Nothing wrong with the food, just a mechanical wrong labeling. As a result, they couldn't export it. So as a result, it couldn't export. So they give it to the food bank. So food bank mostly collected from big industrial sources, and even they buy also sometimes milk and all that, they buy at a lesser price. So industrial factories which make processed food, that is the one source. Another is the restaurants, and also directly from the farmer. If it is not meeting the specification of the big retail chains, they simply throw. So instead of throwing, they give it to the organization. So these are the three sources: the farmland, the restaurants and cafes and all that, and also the big food processing companies.
So it's somehow it's a kind of